business owner. I work on the automotive field. I met Murtaz a few years ago, actually over 5 years ago, when I first came to the US on a very delicate situation and immigration-wise, and they were very prompt and very knowledgeable to help me out on the situation I was. The entire team is fantastic. Everybody takes really good care of you. From the moment one, when you're trying to understand your situation, all the way to the end of the process, they're always with you. I didn't have a single problem with that. Really liked it. If I say it was completely easy, I'll be lying. There's a lot of requirements, not on their end, but there was a lot of documents and paperwork that we had to get together in order to move forward with the process. But they definitely helped through. They have definitely made it easier for sure. This past few years working with Murtaz, you create a certain relationship, and it's a trust relationship in between you and your attorney. And so they definitely gave more than enough attention to me and my case and my situation as well. Green card was approved just like he said it would, and I'm so happy because of that. I would like to really appreciate and all the team, all the efforts, everything that you guys done. I really just have to thank you guys for taking me out of the situation that I was. You guys were reasonable from day one all the way to the end of the process, and still with me, and still gonna be with me even after I become a citizen, which is in my plan, my next steps. I would definitely recommend, because it's not easy to find immigration attorneys that you can trust, number one, that are knowledgeable, they really know what they're doing, and they are not just with you they're not scared of challenge, you know? They're not scared of how tough and is your situation. They're gonna help you out through the entire process, and I already did recommend him, and I already recommend everybody every time that I have a chance.
Welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Today's webinar is especially for entrepreneurs who want to better understand the U.S. immigration process and the option available for their professional and business background. During this webinar, we will talk about some important points, opportunities, and immigration options for entrepreneurs who are considering the United States. We hope today's discussion will give you useful information and help you better understand the possibilities available for you. Well, now I would like to briefly introduce Dr. Murtaz. Dr. Murtaz is an economist and U.S. attorney based in Illinois with over 18 years of experience in immigration law. Throughout his career, he has successfully handled a wide range of immigration matters, including temporary visas, family-based immigration, naturalization, and in particular, employment-based immigration cases. Here we can see Murtaz's professional background. Murtaz is a member of the Illinois State Bar Association and has been licensed to practice law in Illinois since 2008. According to the latest information from ARDC, his license is active and there are no public disciplinary records or pending proceedings against him. Also, we can also confirm here in this page his many years of experience practicing law. And now it's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Murtaz. Murtaz, welcome.
Thanks, Muriel. Good to be here. Welcome, everybody who's listening. Like Muriel was saying, I'm Murtaz. I'm a U.S. immigration lawyer and an economist, and we're going to talk to entrepreneurs today. Muriel and I have worked with many entrepreneurs together over the years. And, one of the things that we realized, like it says here, is that immigrant entrepreneurs are literally the American dream. And so when you look at the stats behind it, it says 59% of most unicorn companies have an immigrant founder. Like 46.2% of the Fortune 500 were started by immigrants. There are 15.4 million jobs at immigrant-founded companies, which for a lot of you, as we go through the national interest waiver type of visa, you'll realize how important that is, and that immigrants are twice as likely to build a company. Now, one thing that I'd like to stress here is that the American entrepreneurial environment is completely different than any other country in the world. Look, we are extremely a capitalist-based environment. A couple of things that you will notice that are different than your country are, one, you can enforce contracts here. It doesn't take 5 years. It can be in a matter of weeks. Secondly, your revenue is not taxed. Your profit is taxed. And that's a big differential as far as the ability to reinvest in your company and drive economic growth. And then finally, look, there's a bunch of different reasons, but the third really important point is in a number of countries that we work with, if you fire somebody or you have to let someone go as an employee of your company, you have to pay them for like 10 years based on whatever the government regulations are. And again, America is a very capitalist and corporate friendly environment. So to be a business owner here, if you manage to do it in your country, the odds are this is going to be a much easier game for you and a much more equal playing field. Muriel, is there anything in particular you want to ask me about here?
I just wanna ask you, like, so it's true, we can strongly say that there is space for immigrant entrepreneurs in the United States.
Well, I wouldn't say there's space. I think there's a demand. It's not just that the availability of the opportunity is there, but we need it in order as a country to survive economically. So, if you look at the research behind immigrant entrepreneurs, the reality is this: our country will fall apart if we don't have immigrant entrepreneurs from an economic level. Are you guys getting an echo? Is that better?
I don't I don't hear echo.
I don't hear
For
an
me
echo
it's
here.
for me it's okay.
But I'll just go on. Look, if you are an entrepreneur and you are making X in your country and you are willing to put in the time, and look, all of you who are out there who are entrepreneurs know one thing: you will not learn how this works in a book. You have to go through it and you have to make the errors and you have to figure it out as you go. Look, I'm a founder of this law firm and I went through it also, in the first 5, 7 years. I made a ton of mistakes, but doing it here, you have more wiggle room because your profit is taxed and not your revenue. So you're not losing um, along the way. But at the same time, there's a lot more capital available for entrepreneurs who want Series A, Series B funding, even venture capital. There's a lot more options. And if you're here and you're running an American company, on the global market, there are a ton of people that are willing to invest in an American company that will be much more hesitant to invest in a country, in a company in a different country, no matter how successful they are, purely based on the economic laws and how hard it is to pull your money out of a country, and also what the rules are in that country when it comes to employment, labor, capital investment, withdrawals, partnerships. The rules here are favorable for the business owner over the worker. And from that standpoint, it makes it the best country in the world to be a founder and entrepreneur.
And Murtaz, we have a question here in the chat about energy, or I would ask you that how can we how can we understand every professional background? Because this is webinar, I mean, we are not talking about specific fields. So how can every client understand if their profile is a strong profile for the process?
Well, I think the best way would be to send your CV to us. Let us do an analysis. Here's the thing. While all of you may be well qualified in your area, the way the law works is there's very specific qualifications for different visa types. And if you don't meet those, unfortunately, we can't take your case. But we also don't want to take your case if we can't win it. We're here to win we're here to win. We're not here to just do cases. So, if you really want to understand what your opportunities are and what your probabilities are, send us your profile. I mean, one of our team, if you're qualified, will reach out and we'll schedule a call and we'll talk to you. We'll really dig into your profile, understand who you are, what you've accomplished in your life, and what your goals are as far as immigration, business, so on and so forth. And then if necessary, I'll jump on a call as well with you and I'll go through the details of it with you. But, it's better if you have the underlying information, had a chance to do the analysis prior to having that call. So if you have a LinkedIn profile or if you have a CV, and I know a lot of you aren't going to have CVs. If you're founders, that's just the way it goes. We also have a form you can fill out if necessary, but give us the information that we need, because if we have that information, look, we can help you better, because I don't like to speculate and guess. These are people's lives. These are people's families' futures. We have to do the due diligence. We have to do the work the right way. But in order for us to be able to do the work the right way, we need the right information. The right information starts at first getting a full profile, understanding who the founder is, who the entrepreneur is, what their business is about, then scheduling a call and taking step by step and having a sales process and an acquisition process like anything else. If you don't have a process to really understand what you're getting yourself into, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So we follow a process starting with a full profile evaluation, and then we'll take the next steps if you're qualified from there.
Thank you, Murtaz.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this, Muriel, for a little bit. It's the business side of the question. There's a couple of things that you need to understand. When you look to start a business in the US, you have to understand that you're allowed to be an investor in the US without a visa. Now, would I recommend getting a visa? Of course I would. Live here. It's awesome. But you're able to invest in this country. We have plenty of people that invest in our country, live abroad, buy houses, invest in the markets, have like full-on companies that Americans run. It happens every single day, and it's not something that the American government is against, but we actually actively support it. Any capital flowing into the US, look, it's going to get taxed, obviously, and every dollar that's made inside the US is going to get taxed. So the government loves foreign investment coming in. And, you don't need a capitalization in order to start. You can open an LLC, you can open a C Corp and start building your business in the US without having a ton of capital. But if you would like to, get capital for your business, especially if you're a foreign company that's looking to internationalize to the US, and I've done that. I've worked as a lawyer for an accelerator program for a number of years. The capital that flows into the US, venture capital, and then investment capital in general, or in the US or flows into the US, you are 10 times as likely to get capital for your business if you're an American company than if you're a company in basically any other part of the world, with some exceptions in Europe. And then, we have a flat federal corporate tax here. It obviously depends on, it's flat as far as percentages for capital gains. But again, there's some rules for R&D and expensing and all those other things. Look, I really recommend that if this is something that you're looking at doing, depending on how you structure the corporation, you get an advisor that's qualified to help you on this. I'm an immigration lawyer, so I'm not going to give you a ton of tax advice here. But, the tax benefits in this country for structuring the right way and building out your company the right way are immense, because what this government understands is that jobs are created because a company is stable. Jobs are maintained because a company is stable. And economic growth comes with economic growth comes job creation. So the more economic growth we have and the more companies that are successful in this country, the more jobs are created for all Americans. And that's really what we want to see here. If you're coming to this country, we want to see you build businesses, and we want to see you create jobs for Americans. The government is looking not at what can we do for you, but they're looking at how can you benefit our country? And that comes down to economic growth, job creation, and social value.
Hey, Murtaz, let me bring a discussion we have this week about another client because I guess this is something that might make some, potential clients be a little bit far from the to make a decision. That is, as an entrepreneur, do I have to expand to the US the same business model I have in my country? For example, if I have a manufacturer in my country, do I have to start a manufacturing in the US to be eligible for the visa, or we can try to understand other options for the client?
It really depends on your personal profile. So we'll use the manufacturing as an example. If you have a manufacturing company in your country and you want to expand, now you have to look at, do I want to have it be a subsidiary or affiliate, or do I want a brand new company in the US? And in that company, am I actually going to do the manufacturing, or am I going to do an import export with that company and still maintain the manufacturing in a different country? So there's a lot of different variables that can play into this, and it really depends on what your experience is, what your education looks like, and where you've been successful. Now, one thing I'll tell you is this. Let's say you have a manufacturing company in your country. You're not going to be able to come in and immediately start, let's say, a chain of restaurants where you have no experience. It has to still fall in line with what you've always done. Now, there's one type of visa that you can probably get around that, but for the vast majority, they want to see that you are a highly qualified professional in your space, in your field. And that is why the odds of you being successful here are extremely high. Anything you do for the first time, you're going to make mistakes. I mean, I know I did when I started my company. So you're going to make those mistakes. But if you're starting in a field that your odds of success, or that you have like 10, 15, 20 years experience, your odds of success are way higher than if it's your first time doing anything. And so they're going to look at that. I'm not saying that you have to stay exactly in line, because we've done it otherwise as well. But to go take a completely different career change while you're making the immigration application is probably not the best idea.
Thank you, Murtaz.
Yep. Anything else on this, Muriel?
No, just another question I have. We know that for other like kind of professional, they are not entrepreneur. We not we don't need necessary to invest a specific amount of money. For entrepreneurs, do they need to invest money, specific money for the immigration process, or not necessarily?
It depends on the visa type. If it's an investor visa, absolutely. They're like, for an E2, you have to invest a certain amount of money. If you don't invest the money and just give a plan, it's an investor visa. They want to see you investing money. That's the way it goes. For NIW, we've done it differently. We've had tech founders that have started in their living room with 2 computers and a printer. And so you don't really need a lot of capital in that context, but it's got to be consistent with the plan you create. If the plan you create, like if you talk about opening up, I don't know, a store on Fifth Avenue in New York, yeah, you better have $200,000 a month ready to pay rent for that store, right? If you don't have that, it's not sustainable. If you're building an AI startup, you don't need that much. And so, it really varies based on what the business model is, but also on the visa type, as I mentioned. For an NIW, for E1A, you may or may not need it. But for an E2, for an EB5, that are investor visas and specific for the government issuing a visa as a result of giving investment, then it's a completely different game. And look, we got to analyze each. And then look, there's also restrictions on who can qualify for individual visa types. Like, for instance, you need to have a certain type of passport from a certain country that has a treaty with the US in order to qualify for an E2. And if you don't have that passport, you're not a citizen of one of those countries, it's not available to you. So, that's why I'm saying send in your profile and let us take a look at it. Let's talk. Because, rather than just assume it's a one size fits all, everyone's situation is different. And we really need to cater and build a strategy around what's going to be most effective for you, your family, and what your ultimate objectives are. Not everyone wants to stay here permanently, Not everyone wants to be temporary. So we have to really look at this on a case-by-case basis. And the only way we can really do that is by having people send their profile and their CV in or their LinkedIn profile and let us take a look at it, reach out, make contact, and book a call.
And Murtaz, before we move forward, just a last question here. For entrepreneurs, do they need to have a university degree to start their process?
It again depends on the visa, right? For most visas, no, if you have the experience to balance that out. For a lot of entrepreneurs that we've dealt with over the years, they don't have a bachelor's degree. There's some of them will have like an associate's degree, technical, technology, something like that, or no degree. But there's also for certain visa categories, exceptional ability that you can prove, or for like an E2, you don't need any degree. You just need to have that investment. So really, it's a balancing act. First you got to figure out what the person wants, what is available as far as what their education, experience, et cetera is, what their passport types are, what country their passport is from, and then craft a custom strategy for that individual. You cannot do a one size fits all with immigration because you will not win. You have to do it based on the individual and based on the data set that's in front of you, based on the evidence that was collected.
Thanks, Murtaz.
Got to talk about this again. Okay. This is probably the most common point that we've talked about in the last 18 months. What about Donald Trump? And what's he going to do? Here's the thing. Donald Trump is a temporary situation in our country. And so, some of the immigration policies that are currently in place are in place, and some are valid, some may not be valid. Everyone has their opposing points of view. But the one thing I'll tell you is he's not going after the highly qualified people who are bringing a bunch of value to our country. He's more concerned with people who are here out of status or illegally, people who are applying for humanitarian aid, such as asylum. He's not really the type of applications and like the way they're scrutinizing the applications have gotten a little bit harder, but not for us because we've always done it where we build the cases to hit every point of the law. But for people that are doing the bare minimum, yeah, of course, it's gotten harder under the Trump administration. But you got to think about this as a long-term decision, especially if you're looking for a green card. This is not a 1-2 year process, which is how long he has left. This is a 50-year potential process for you where you get your green card and you live here for the rest of your life. So, even building these cases can sometimes take, 4 to 6 months. And then it can be up to 2 years of processing time, which realistically right now, if that happens, you're outside the Trump administration by the time your case is decided. And what history has shown us is that even in his first administration, but like every administration, at least that I've been alive in, there are legal pathways and they are actively recruiting high demand professionals and entrepreneurs because that is the backbone of our economy. The more entrepreneurs that come, the more successful businesses we have in this country, especially after the pandemic, where we lost a ton of small and medium-sized businesses in this country, but it was just not sustainable for a lot of these people with companies opening and closing, opening and closing. We're now at a point in our history where look at the track record for the last 40 years. Nothing's changed. For the highly qualified professionals and entrepreneurs, the demand for you to come to the US and the desire of the US to have you here has always been just as high, and I think probably higher now, because as we move and shift into a more global economy, a lot of entrepreneurs can bring access to other markets and things along those lines that we didn't have necessarily before. And then the final part of this is, you got to look at this from a planning perspective. Is this the most favorable scenario in the history of the U.S. as far as for founders and entrepreneurs? I don't know. I don't have a study that's going to say that, but we've been extremely successful with founders and entrepreneurs in the first Trump administration, and now again in the second Trump administration, and in the Biden administration, and in the Obama administrations. So, the question isn't, is this the right time? It's, do you want to be here in 2 to 3 years or not? And if you want to be here in 2 to 3 years, you have to make a move eventually. Waiting for it all to line up perfectly. And if you're an entrepreneur, you understand this probably better than almost anyone in the world. It will never all line up perfectly and have a perfect opportunity. At some point, you just got to say, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm going to make this happen no matter what. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you facilitate making it happen. That in doing it the right way. I mean, the one thing I will tell you is if you're going to do it correctly or don't do it. Because all you will do is cost yourself money and time by doing it incorrectly or working with unqualified professionals. You have to get it right with this administration. Doing it right, opportunities have always been there. Doing it wrong, the risk is higher now than it's ever been. But if you're going into it with the idea of doing it wrong or doing it the quick and easy way, this is not for you. This is for people who are serious and who want to actually get a visa or move their life to the US and get every opportunity that the US will offer. And I promise you this, there's not a country in the world that will offer you more opportunities than the US. What you do with those opportunities, that's your decision. But the opportunities here will outweigh any other country in the world. Moriel, you got anything you want to add on this? Or you want to ask
No,
anything on this?
Murtaz here. No, no, we
No.
can move forward.
All right, so let's talk about a couple different visa types that'll work for you guys. We have the EB2, which is probably the one we do the most of. It's for founders with advanced degree, bachelor plus 5 years, or exceptional ability, which is proving 3 out of 7 categories, which most of you will have. The EB1A is for founders with extraordinary ability. Now, this is for people that have kind of gotten famous, or for research scientists that started a business and have publications and I've worked on doctoral dissertations. They have patents, they have judging roles, but there's a lot of different ways to do that as well. Again, seeing your CV and your profile will help us better decide which category you fit into. The EB1C is for people that have a company. Well, EB1C and then the temporary version of that, which is the L1A or L1B. Those are for like founders who have a company over abroad, have worked in that company over abroad, or people that have worked in the company over abroad, and then want to transfer to a U.S. subsidiary or a U.S. parent here. The companies have to be aligned structurally, but that's an option if you worked in those companies. And then finally, like I was talking about earlier, the E2 is it's a non-immigrant visa for investors. Now, again, the investment amount has to line up with your business model, but this is the one where if you were an engineer your whole life and you want to come here and start a coffee shop, but you have the right passport, you can do that. So that gives a lot more flexibility for people that want to start a different type of business, but again, you have to be from a country that has that treaty with the United States. All of these are available, but they're not available for everyone. So again, once we see your profile, we can go through and do an analysis and kind of figure out which is going to be the best option for you.
Can I use this because we have a question here for a client. What if you already hold an E2 visa and already invested like 250, 300 thousand dollars into the economy? What is the process for a green card?
I mean, I would say just offhand, without having seen your profile, EB2 and IW is probably going to be your best bet. But again, that is based off of one sentence. I want to see everything about your business. I want to understand who you are, what type of business it is, when you say it's invested, does that mean that you've spent it, or does that mean that you have it in a bank account and you're holding it for the business and you're just in a business bank account? So there's a lot of different variables that go into that. I mean, I would guess from what you're saying that you'll probably have a qualified business plan already. I would guess that the EB2 and IW, but again, I got to look at your education. I got to look at your experience. I got to look at all these different variables to really make a qualified assessment on this and build you a strategy that's going to work for you. If you want to stay and you have done that already, reach out, send us your profile. Let us take a look at it. And then whoever gets your profile, I'll ask to have them book a call with me and we can talk it through.
Murtaz, mainly for EB2 and IW and EB1A, it's a common question for clients. They are entrepreneur. So when they evaluate an entrepreneur case, what they look to, like they look for the size of the company, for the revenue, or for the entrepreneur experience? What are they looking for?
Well, it depends on the situation again, right? So you're not going to have a size of a company or revenue if you're in a foreign country and you're making the application. That's more based on the theory of what you're going to do for our country and my ability to prove the economic, social, value, the implications, and how you're going to help solve a government crisis that we have. So, there you can't necessarily look at the scope of the company if the company isn't in full operations because the founder is waiting in another country for the green card so they can come here and operate the company. So for that, again, we'll look at a entrepreneurial experience. It doesn't hurt, but we've won so many cases with people with no entrepreneurial experience, but they're very specific in their field, very, very highly qualified, and they're going to either make the jump to entrepreneurship in their country or here. But they do want to see that you understand the US market. And the US market is very different than other markets around the world. And they want to see that you've done your research, that you're prepared and you've done the due diligence and you're ready to make an impact on day one. And that goes for the EB2, that goes for the EB1A, that gos for well, the EBC is a little bit, EB1C is a little bit different, but the E2, they want to see that you have enough investment. So that's how they kind of structure it. But look, we'll guide you through that process. And it's not something that you need to be facing alone. You really need to work with someone who knows what they're doing. So that way you're not guessing and hoping it works out. Hope is not a strategy. You really have to do this by having a great strategy and a team that can execute at a very high level and get ahead of the problems that we've seen over and over again from the government, over the last 15, 18 years. So it's a really different scenario when you're doing something for the first time than when you're doing something for the 1,000th or 10,000th time.
Thanks.
All right, so let's talk about some benefits here. What does the green card get you? And if you guys look at the top right corner here, there's a QR code for you to send your information in so that you can check your eligibility. Look, this is the basic bullet points, and I'll make them more common with entrepreneurs. Security, obviously for your family, but also for your business, your capital. If your currency is not fluctuating 30% in a week, you're going to be able to make a lot better business decisions. You'll be able to keep your family more secure. Most areas of the U.S. are pretty safe. I can't say that for all areas because we still have big cities. Residency and ability to work. Now, look, you can live wherever you want, and you can have as many businesses as you want. You can have as many jobs as you want. There's no limit on the level of opportunity, like I was saying earlier. But it's what do you do with the opportunity? How hard are you willing to work? That's 100% on you. People who work their hardest in this country and are willing to put up with the most stress and the most nonsense, I guess, make the most money. That's how it works, especially in entrepreneurship. If you are willing to be awake at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning working, your odds of success are much higher than if you turn off at 5 o'clock every day. And so, your opportunities for residency and work are just limitless in this country. It's just a matter of what you're willing to do with those opportunities. Education. Now, this applies for children as well as adults. If you are a green card holder, you don't have to pay the international student rate. So your education becomes significantly cheaper, and you have access to scholarships and other types of benefits that you're not going to get as an international student. And then finally, look, once you're here for 5 years, unless you get married to a U.S. citizen, but outside of that, once you have a green card for 5 years, you can apply for U.S. citizenship and all the benefits that come with that. And that allows you then, if you want to stay out of the country for 10 years, you never lose your citizenship. And then, apply for your parents or older children, etc. You can. And those options are available, and I'll walk you through them when and if that becomes appropriate. All right, Muriel, we talk about this all the time. We have an extremely high approval rate of 99.5%, and it's not luck. You have to do the work. It's a methodology. Follow the methodology, follow the process, and your odds of success are significantly higher. If you deviate from it, you try to do it by yourself, or you work with someone who's not qualified to do these visa types, and that you don't have the right evidence, you don't have the right structure, you don't have the right arguments, your odds of success are significantly lower. Don't spend money on the cheapest version of this just to try to save money and then have to do it again in 2 years. You're going to double your costs. It just doesn't make sense to do it wrong the first time. Do it right the first time. Work with a qualified professional. Work with the methodology. I mean, this is probably what I would stress the most out of anything you're going to get out of this is if you built a business, you know that if you're hoping that things work out, you're probably not going to have a great result. if you're doing the work and you're looking at every detail and you're making sure that you're covering all your bases, yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out. That's the 0.5%. That's life. But your odds of success when you do things the right way are significantly higher and your risk levels go down exponentially. So, what I would tell every one of you out there, if you're interested in doing this, do it the right way. Get a qualified methodology with a proven track record because this is your family's future. So do it right the first time. All right. So I think we talked about this a little bit, and Moriel, you can add your 2 cents in here if you'd like. We need to know if you're eligible. You don't have to have everything figured out, and you don't have to do all your research alone online or believe what people are saying on Instagram necessarily, because surprisingly enough, not everything on Instagram is true. What you do need is to first understand if your profile has the ability for a win. I don't take every case because if I don't feel like I can win the case, I won't take it. I'm here to win cases because look, it's both for your benefit if you have a family or you're a business owner that you want to actually win the case, but it's also to my benefit as a business owner because most of my model has been created around I win the case, people send me their 5 friends, I win all 5 of those cases, they send me 5 of their friends each, and now for that first case I won, I got 31 cases. So that's my model. My model is win, get referred, win, get referred. And that's how I'm going to keep doing it. That's why we take longer to build cases than other people do because we put more work in. And you have to put the work in, like I said, if you want to get the end result. And the end result is ultimately getting your green card or your temporary visa. So scan the code here. It will go into our system. Our team will assess your profile and then get back to you to book a call with one of us. And from there, we will follow a process like we do with everything else.
And Murtaz, just to make sure that many times business owners they don't have like a CV, a LinkedIn profile. So we do. It's important to say that we do have a form, and they have the space to send all the information we need. So as much as the the better information we have to evaluate the profile, the better will the opportunity will give to schedule a meeting with us because we need to see some we need to see that they might be eligible to invite them for a meeting. So
Yeah.
can you just explain a little
So
bit more
look,
about that?
absolutely. So look, and thanks, Muriel. So we have a form. Look, you're not required to put complete information on there, but we encourage it because if you really want an assessment, we can't make an assessment on half information. If you put half information on there, we're going to try to call you and clarify, but we're going to end up doing you're going to end up doing the exact same thing. You're going to be telling us the stuff that you could have just put on the form. So please fill out the form completely if you don't have a CV or a LinkedIn profile and give us as much information as we're requesting so we can do an actual assessment, understand your eligibility, and then also, like Muriel was saying, we can book a call with you. And then if we need even more clarification, we can get it during that first call, or we can get, additional information that is going to make us understand, your case better. Because as a founder or a business owner, sometimes it's not as easy to qualify what you've done and kind of what your results have been as it would be for someone in a corporate role or a professor that has certain types of research that they can put down. A business owner, it's a different life than other people have, and unless you've gone through it, you're really not going to understand it. And I do understand it because I've done it. But if you can give us more information, the more information you can give us, relevant information, mind you, the more information you can give us, the better our analysis can be, and the easier it will be for us to guide you in the right direction from step one.
Thank you, Murtaz. Thank you.
All right. That's it as far as our prepared information. Moriel, you want to just lay these questions on me and I will start answering them one by one?
For sure. Let's start
And for
with
those
this.
of, sorry, one second. And for those of you who haven't sent your CV yet, that's the QR code. Feel free to scan it and send your information through.
And also feel free to send the question you have in the Q&A, please. Murtaz, we have this question. How long does it take to get the green card? That's a good one.
It's a hard one to say
Yeah,
because
hard one. Yeah, I would say hard one.
there's so
Yes.
many different application types. Look, it depends on the type of green card you're applying. Okay, so if you're applying as an entrepreneur and you do an EB-1A with premium processing, you can have it in 6 to 9 months. If you're doing NIW or EB-2 NIW and you're not using premium processing, it can take 2.5 years. So it really depends. What I will tell you is this: if you want to come quicker, the best thing you can do is, regardless of your visa type, to start sooner rather than later, because you're going to have to sit through the processing time like everybody else. And there's certain programs that work and certain programs that are higher risk, like doing premium processing with the national interest waiver is a very high risk scenario right now. I wish it wasn't, but it is. So you really have to gauge it on what your objectives are. And look, for some people, they'll use a temporary visa like an E2, come here. I think we talked to someone who was doing that and already had a company built. Come here, build their company, and then apply for this at the same time, apply for an EB-2 NIW at the same time, using the same company. So look, there's a lot of different variables in this. What I would tell you is it really just depends on the visa type and how long it takes for you to personally collect certain documentation and get it back to us so that we can build a comprehensive case for you.
Okay. Next one. It's another good one, Murtaz. What if my business that I want to start is going to be based outside the US?
Well, then I would recommend getting a visa to that country, because the visas that the US is going to issue are going to be for people to bring value to our country. It's not, the US is not going to give you a visa to go and build a company in Germany. That doesn't make any sense. So if you want to come and live in the US, yeah, you're going to have to benefit our country. And so with that in mind, if you're going to start a business based outside the US, great. Have a US company and have that be the subsidiary, and then you can use that company to apply for your green card. But if your entire objective is to help another country, you're not going to get a US visa for that.
And I hold a F visa, student visa. Can I open a company in the US?
You can. You just can't work. Yeah, you're not allowed to work on an F1 visa. You can open a company. People do it to buy houses. People do it to invest. People do it and they hire other people to run the company for them. All of that's available. But if you have an F1 visa and you want to be able to be the CEO and lead your company, you're going to have to get some type of work authorization, a type of visa, or you're going to have to get a green card so that you can run your company effectively. And I would recommend that if you're going to do that, reach out to us first. There's a lot of risk in that, to do it without valid advice. And if you're taking a salary and things like that, that will count towards unauthorized employment, and that could jeopardize all your future immigration applications going forward. So just be careful.
Next one, Murtaz. I opened a LLC in Delaware for my tech startup in AI computer vision. I'm from Mexico and I'm looking on how to move to the US to continue working from there. Me and my brother, both founders, have a BS in mechanical engineer and computer system. What are our options to move to the US?
Well, I mean, we went through the visa types, but I would recommend for both you and your brother, send us your CVs, because you will not have exactly the same profile. You may be both co-founders of the same company, but how any visa application has to be structured for you is completely different based on your education, your experience, what you've done, what positions you hold at the company, so on and so forth. So, I'm happy to talk to you guys. Send us both of your CVs. Each of you should send us your CV. We'll take a look at it. My team will reach out to you guys, and then we'll book calls accordingly so that we can put you guys in the right strategy and to make sure that you guys have a chance to run your company in Delaware and make as much money as you possibly can.
Next one, Murtaz. The EB-1A green card option, does it also apply to press journalists who are self-employed entrepreneur?
It can, if you fit at least 3 out of 10 of the categories that are required. Now, the way I do it, I won't take the case unless it's 6 out of 10, because you need to have some room for attrition. If they don't accept 2 out of the 6, you still have 4, you'll win your case. If you have only 3 and they don't accept 1, you're going to lose your case. I won't take that kind of case. It's way too high risk, and I don't think it's worth the investment. That's like going to a casino and hoping that it works out. The house always wins in that scenario. So, it is available, but again, without having done a detailed study of your profile, it's hard for me to say if it's available for your specific profile.
Murtaz, next one, I guess it's a nice one because people always confused about the citizenship and green cards status. So, do you have to give up a citizenship of a third country in order to obtain the green card? How many citizenship can you have with a green card?
Now, this is an interesting question. So you don't have to give up your citizenship in order to get a green card. Can you bring that back? I was still reading it. There we go. So you don't have to give up, but if you want to get a U.S. citizenship, the U.S. allows you to have dual, triple citizenships. We don't care. As long as you pay your taxes here and we get our money, they really don't care. Now, you have other countries who are going to have their own specific rules, like Spain. If you're a Spanish citizen, you cannot have that citizenship and I think a U.S. citizenship or any other citizenship. So you do have to also look at not just from the U.S. side, you have to also look at it from your country of origin. If you have a citizenship in a country that does not allow you to have dual citizenship, then you got to make a choice. With a green card, nobody cares. You can have, look, as long as your citizenship isn't right now with like Venezuela, Iran, North Korea, one of the countries that we have conflict with, but they won't issue you a green card anyway if you're from one of those countries at this point. So that's not something you need to worry about. But yeah, the U.S. has no rules on the amount of citizenships or giving up citizenship. They're not like I've got more than one. And then I know a bunch of people that have like 2 or 3 citizenships and are all American citizens. So it's completely doable. And they're not going to make you give up your other citizenships to get U.S. citizenship. I just can't comment on the other countries and what their rules are.
And from the Q&A, last one, Murtaz. What could be the total packet cost to go through this process? Is there any specific investment amount? I guess it's a question.
Well, for the specific investment amount, look, it really depends on your business model, as I mentioned before. If you have, no capital and you need to, rent a warehouse in Miami, good luck. That doesn't really work out so well, right? So you need to have enough capital to make it work. Now, for the process and how much it costs, look, there's different processes. So they each cost a different amount from the attorney side, but they also cost different amount from the government fee side and what your other costs are. Like if you're going to get a green card, you need a medical exam. If you're not getting a green card, you probably don't. And so there's various different things, and my team can go through the costs and our payment options and things along those lines with you individually if you're interested. But before we do any of that, first we need to know that you're eligible. So, your best bet is to send your CV or your form in. Let us take a look. If you're eligible, we'll schedule a call and we'll run you through all of it because I like everyone to be fully informed before they make any decisions.
Now, Murtaz, we have one here in the chat. Can I open an international headquarter in the US while keeping core sales and distribution in home company?
Where are we? International headquarters in the US while keeping core sales. And I don't understand what is home company, home country.
Yes, I guess he's trying to say like, can I have the headquarter in the US and the sales and distribution outside the
As long as all the money
US?
flows into the US, you create jobs in the US, and the US gets to tax all the revenue, I don't think they're going to care. You can, if most of the work you're doing, like if you're manufacturing here and you're selling to Brazil, for instance, and you have a sales and distribution channel down there, yeah, well, that's fine. But then you need to be doing you need to still show the economic value and how that's going to benefit our country. It's the U.S. again. While you could have international headquarters, if it's just a placeholder like a holding company, and you're doing all of your business outside, that's probably not going to work in this context. They want you to benefit the U.S. they will not give you a U.S. visa to benefit another country. And I mean, we get that question a lot, where you have entrepreneurs all over the world who want to basically maintain their business and say, "Hey, I want to maintain my business here. I want to show them what I can do. Can I get a U.S. visa for it?" And the answer is no. You have to do something that benefits us as a country, not benefits yourself. The US government, when they review your application, will not look at what's best for you. They will look at what's best for the American economy and the American population and US citizens. They're not looking at what's best for you. So you have to change your mindset with that. If you're asking for something for the US, you need to deliver something to the US as well. And what you deliver has to be overwhelmingly better than what you're asking for.
And Murtaz, this one, I guess we talked about that matter a lot, but for entrepreneurs, are there minimum requirements? And this person informs us that he or she is Canadian. So about minimum requirements.
All right. So as a Canadian, you have a lot more options than maybe other places would because we do have some treaties with you. I don't know what you mean by minimum requirements. You're talking about for education, experience. We look at a combination of everything and base it against how the law is written today. The minimum requirement for each visa category is not what you want. You want to be above the minimum requirement. If you're trying to apply with just the minimum requirements, it's going to lower your probability of success. You want to have well above the minimum requirements to show that your odds of success of creating a business in the US will lead to success. And that success turns into US jobs, turns into US taxes, turns into capital, turns into economic growth. So, when you ask what the minimums are, send a CV in. If you hit the minimum or above, we'll book a call with you and we'll talk you through it because that's the only way I'm going to be able to answer that question. I cannot give you a minimum for all entrepreneurs. If we're looking at purely educationally for a certain category, then we can maybe talk about it that way. But for a lot of entrepreneurs, some have degrees, some don't have degrees, some have 30, 40 years of experience with no degrees, others have a master's or an MBA and 10 years of experience. So it's a balancing act. So it's really hard to say what the minimum is for anyone. We have to, and that's why we have to vet each profile one by one.
Murtaz, we have some question about like the personal situation about like I already have a E2 and have invested in the US business and plan to open multiple business location in US. Already have chain for restaurant and few more. Almost invest more than 800 800,000 and moving or originally from India, Canadian citizen, and already have E2 visa. So we have a lot of question about life specific situations. So just we need to see all the datas. Yeah, we can
Yeah,
give
send your CV in. Look, if you have a specific situation, I mean, it's going to be hard for us to address it all in the next 7 minutes.
yes.
Yeah. So what I would recommend for this person, what's the name here? Hang on. Amish, send in your information, and we'll get back to you.
Another one, do I need a business to qualify? Yes, just to mention that this is the webinar specifically for entrepreneurs, but not
No, you
necessarily.
don't. You don't necessarily need a business to qualify, or experience as a founder. But depending on what you want to do here and what your objectives are, you may need to create a business in order to qualify for certain visa categories. And so, again, if we look at your profile and we can do something besides that, or there is an option for you, we may be able to have a strategy. But again, it has to have a high enough probability of success, and you have to be able to qualify for each individual visa type so we can make a strategic plan for you to meet your objectives.
Murtaz, just to respect the time, I have two more questions. I guess will be enough. How much does it cost?
Again, I addressed this earlier. It depends on the visa type that you're applying for, what your capital investment amount needs to be based on that visa type, what the government filing fees are based on that visa type, and any other considerations like the medical exam if you're going for a green card, etc. So look, again, until you know what your strategy is and what visa type you're going to be applying for, it's really hard for me to tell you exactly how much it's going to cost because I just don't know. We have different prices. The government has different prices, and there's different requirements that have certain costs for each different visa type.
Yeah, and last one, and this is nice because we just talked this week about this one. What about Trump's gold card visa program?
They've issued one. So I would not bet heavily on it. I'm talking globally. They've issued one, and I don't know if the next administration will honor them because we don't really know what's happening with any of it. So if they've only issued one, we don't know. They haven't been very forthcoming with information. EB-5 is still available. It's a investor visa where you invest basically $1.8 million. However, with the gold card, it's hard to tell you which one they're going to approve because they're not being very forthcoming with the information. If you are a qualified entrepreneur and you have enough capital, and if you're looking at the gold card, you probably do. Then again, send it in. There may be an even better option for you, lower risk, lower cost option for you. But again, I got to see the profile, and once I do, I'll be able to tell you whether or not this is something that we can help you with.
Okay, Murtaz, we are done with the questions.
Okay, nobody else has any questions? Okay. Well, listen, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been here and have spent the last hour or so listening to Muriel and I discuss kind of how this works for entrepreneurs. Look, the opportunities are there. If you're interested, please, can you go back one slide to the QR code? Yeah, scan the QR code and let us help you. I mean, I understand that immigration can be a very complex subject to navigate on your own, especially if you're not from here, if English is not necessarily your first language, and or if this is your first and only time that you're planning on doing this, for those of you who are looking for green cards and maybe have never been to the US before. So, with that in mind, your best bet is to take the appropriate steps, to understand what your options are before you commit to anything. And the way my team and I do things, we're going to do it by the book. We're going to understand who you are. We're going to understand your profile, and we're going to understand how we possibly can help you. Then we'll explain it to you. We'll explain the costs. Then we'll sign it. We'll sign a contract, and then we'll proceed from there. So, do it the right way. This is your family's future. This is your future. And there, like I said, with all the opportunities that are in front of you, do it the right way so you don't cost yourself years by doing the wrong way, having to do it a second, third, fourth time. My team is here to help. Roberta's here, Muriel's here, Joyce is here. And one of them will reach out to you once you've sent your CV in. And then hopefully from there, we'll be able to help you guys find the right path and kind of deliver on all the objectives that you have. But ultimately, the one thing I can promise you is that if you work with us, the case will be built exceptionally well. Okay. Muriel,
Okay, Murtaz. No, thank you so much.
Thank you, Muriel. Thanks for your time. Thanks for everyone for showing up, and we will hopefully hear from you all very soon.
Thank you.
Bye.